Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to everything you ever wanted to know about Rokor. I'm very glad you're here. My name is Alena Plavšić, and this webinar is brought to you by the Fund for Assistance to the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia. Here it is on the screen. It's a wonderful nonprofit. I work there, and it's over 60 years old, and it's the best vehicle for helping our church that I personally am aware of. The Fund for Assistance supports clergy, youth conferences, and Rokor missions around the world, like the ones in Haiti, Mexico, Argentina, and so on. Please let me know in the chat where you're from. It's always nice to know who's here, and we always want to say hi. So please let us know where you're joining from. We have a really great topic today. I'm very excited about it. And the topic, it also should be on the screen. Let me know if you can see, by the way, what's on the screen. Today's topic is, everything you ever wanted to know about the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia. And we picked this photo because last time we did this webinar, we did it in Russian. And one of the most popular questions was, why is it that the MP serves in red and Rokor serves in, and Rokor serves in white. Anyway, so we have a great guest here today. It's Father Protodeacon Andrei Psarev. There he is on the screen, and you can maybe see him on camera. He is a professor of Russian Church history at the Holy Trinity Russian Orthodox Seminary in Jordanville, New York. And he is also professor of canon law. And if you think that's boring, you should hear Father Andrei talk about it. It's absolutely fascinating. So also Father Andrei is the creator of rocorstudies.org. It's a one and only very unique website that talks about all things Rokor history. So if you're a history buff and you've never visited it, please go ahead and go there now and take a look at it, because Father Andrei does a lot of work on it, and he always adds a lot of new materials, so regularly adds new materials. So it's a very wonderful website. I highly recommend it. Let me see who's here. Okay. Right. We have Ryan from Northern Ireland. Wow. Welcome. Andrew from Toronto, Father Lazarus from Jordanville. Bless Father. I'm sorry, I don't know if you're a deacon or a priest. Father Mark from Columbia, South Carolina. Hello, Father. Alexander from Nizhny Novgorod. Darren from Northern Ireland. Matchka Juliana from Father Joseph Galliano from Alabama. John from Pittsburgh, Karen from Wales, Michael from Pennsylvania, Inessa from Moscow, Tamara from Canada, Joanna from Ireland. Wow, lots of people from Ireland today. This is exciting. Father Richard from Harrisonburg, Virginia, Judith from Ohio, Anna and Sophia from St. Louis. Michael is asking, is this being recorded? Yes, we are recording it. Let me check. Am I recording? Yes, I am recording. That's good. Okay, good. That's always good to check. Father John Filanyuk from Michigan, Father Richard and Matchka Mary is also here with me, he says. Sanya Tsvetanovich from Toronto, Canada. Carl from Denver, Deacon Mark from the UK, Nicholas from London, Deacon Mark, Matchka Elizabeth from Suffolk, and Sister Elizabeth from Mississippi. Alexander from Texas. Ooh, well, thank you so much for introducing yourself. In case you don't know me and you missed it, my name is Alena Plavšić, or Alena Plavšić. I work for the Fund for Assistance, and this is how we're doing these webinars. And I'm very excited today because Father Andrei Psarev is going to talk to us about all things Rokor. Again, if you don't know who he is, let me put him on the screen. There he is. He's Rokor's own historian and the creator of rocorstudies.org, a unique, absolutely unique website. I highly recommend that you bookmark it and check it regularly. And there's a button somewhere that allows you to allows you to subscribe. Now, please say hi to Отец Andrei. Please say hi in the chat. Отец Andrei, very glad to have you here again with us. It's a really great treat to talk to you. Please just say hello to our not visitors. I'm sorry, I have COVID. I'm doing well. I'm fine. It's just it's I have a lot of brain fog right now. So please, if I say something wrong or do something wrong, it's COVID. So sorry about that in advance. So please say hello to Отец Andrei.
Hello, Leona. Hello, everyone. It's quite extraordinary for you to be out there, despite what you are struggling with. And many, many thanks for all your kind and enthusiastic words. And I am welcoming everyone, and so good to see people from various corners of the Russian church abroad, which are often out of access. Like when we presenting in Russian, it was very good to see people from South America, which is not normally on our kind of major venues. And here there are friends from Northern Ireland, which is very close to me, to my experience. And there are also people from London, UK. There are friends from London, UK. And it's very good. And also I see people from Dixieland. So I am honored and humbled to be here with you today. And with God's help, we will try to do our best to be useful for this time that you so generously dedicated to this meeting.
Oh, thank you, Отец Andrei. Well, my first question is, let's talk about your website, rocorstudies.org. What's the big deal about it? And if I may just put in my 2 cents first, if you don't know what that is. It's actually Otец Andrei, what Father Andrei is doing. He's putting in a tremendous amount of work, recording the history of Rokor the way it is. And what I found absolutely fascinating in our conversation before this meeting is that he said that he's trying to preserve the full picture of how things are in our church. And because, as he said, if you don't do that, then it stops being history and becomes ideology. And Otец Andrei, could you please comment on that? Because I found that very interesting.
No,
because I thought that, I'm so sorry, I just can't stop talking, it seems. Like sometimes as an Orthodox Christian, there's this temptation to kind of smooth around the edges. And sometimes you think like that might be actually a good thing. And then there you go and say, no, you have to preserve the full picture. So could you comment on that, why that's so important?
Right. I mean, first of all, this website, Rokor Study, is a website that exists, almost everything exists in English. So it's part of the mission to make high quality academic materials on the history of the Russian Church abroad available to English speaking audience. Right. And then also we are part of the church, right? And Orthodox Church by default is conservative organism. It conserves traditions. But with this also, we very often in preservationist, in defensive mindset, like a magic word for church people is a scandal, right? So it's going to be scandal. Let's not talk about it. Let's not let information out because people are going to be scandalized. It's kind of magic word for a bishop. But look what happened to Roman Catholics because of this mindset. People, in fact, became much more scandalized when they learned about culture of the place, about history of covering up, and they could deal with the fact that there was system of abuses. But when they realized that actually this organization, in fact, was covering up abuses, that's when people start turning their backs on this organization. And we cannot afford this. We cannot afford this. I understand that we are different and so on, but at the same time, there are a lot of similarities. So, and that's why I think honesty is best policy in this sense, and history is just scholarship, which is constantly updated discipline. It shouldn't be venerated. It's not holy revelation. So we shouldn't scandalize when somebody come up with these findings or that findings, because maybe later on somebody would point to fallacies, to mistakes that I made in my translation, my interpretation. It's fine, but we are just started to live with this. So I should mind our time because Alona doesn't feel well and we will be here for half an hour. So I am also will try, you know, I do a living with talking, so I can talk a lot and therefore I will keep it under control.
Oh, Father, that's what we're here for. We're here to listen to you talk, not to me. So what you're saying is that it seems like your view at history is something, it's a fine line between constant worry about scandalizing somebody and at the same time making sure that you don't hide anything, right?
Basically, forms are more important than content often, because you might believe that this is truth, but I think we Orthodox don't worship is the exactness of information, because sometimes you might withhold information and do good. And sometimes you might send this message across, which can be very destructive. So it's very important about how do we come across, how we communicate with others, and always should be respectful, regardless to whom we speak. It's always should be respectful. We should respect dignity of whoever we speak about. At the same time, doing history means that we should put ourselves in shoes of whoever we write, analyze about. Otherwise, there are people I would refuse to do any history about, because I don't want to critically assess this or that particular person. Because I so personally involved with this person, I don't want to assess this person, because without critical analysis, there is no history.
Wow, this is fascinating. This is very new and very, very not 21st century, as you might, might think, because basically you're definitely not out to shock people and do exposés.
No, yes. It's something. I mean, history requires perspective. Like yesterday at the Russian history class, a student asked to write something about like situation in Ukraine, but this is like news in development. We not necessarily have good perspective to write about. So what I mean, history, it's not exactly politology. It's not something that happens right now. I think I'm working a little bit more with things that I have more information and I have perspective. It's not really basically what happens at the same minute, same time.
Oh, we have a question from Father Ian regarding a historical point of view. We should consider being granular, truthful while doing analysis, perhaps.
Right. Yes. We should respect our opponents as well. That's what means to do history. And I am very happy to live in this time, because we're coming out from this sort of circled wagons mentality when we kept our forts and we just basically defended ourselves. But now we also can afford looking at the picture in its complexity. What did our opponents say? And we might say, actually, their point is, we see with hindsight of time, was valid. And that their point was not valid. And that what if you are called historians, that's what you do, because there also can be collection of various facts, which every family has. But it's not necessarily history. History, it means critically assessing them and setting up a conversation between various historical narratives.
Thank you, Father. I'd like to address our listeners right now and ask them, type in 1 if your mind has been blown, to use the colloquial expression, by what Father Andrei is saying. I'm completely blown away by what he said. This is such a, what's the word I'm looking for? Бережное отношение к истории. It's such a careful, yes, well, careful, I guess, he has such a careful.
Help each other, Leona. You will help each other. So
thank you. What'd you say?
Nurturing
approach. Yes, my husband's listening here, and he suggested a word for me. It's a very nurturing approach towards history, and that's very unusual today. You never hear anybody talk about history like that. So I wanted to ask you about this one thing. Last August marked 100 years since Rokor was born. And how would you describe in very, very general terms, Rokor that was 100 years ago and Rokor today? Is it the same Rokor or is it different?
Right. If my wish would be granted, like I would have 3 wishes to be granted to travel in time, I probably would like to be in Constantinople in 1920 when all those people arrived there, or maybe to be in London in 1919 when people from Archangel, from Northern Russia arrived there. So therefore, I'm not fully in position to say, but I think we're talking about not quite 2 different churches, because traditions have been preserved. But at the same time, we are talking about people similar and different. Similar because many of us who survived the collapse of the one empire of the Soviet Union, their experience comparable to the experience of people who lost the Russian Empire. But at the same time, very few of us lived through the revolution, thanks God. Through the Civil War, thanks God, not many of us lost their siblings, their beloved ones. We didn't witness all those atrocities, brutalities, bloodshed that people witnessed in front of their own eyes. So they were utterly traumatized. And also they were very ideologically, I don't want to say divided, but they very ideologically tuned. Right, it's meant a lot, sort of. It's meant a lot. What does it mean to constitute? What does it constitute to be Russian? Right. So Russian people don't do this. How come you're a Russian girl? You're really up to very, very high standard of behavior, because whatever you do in school, they would judge about Russia based on your behavior. So people were very much hostages of their situations. They never wanted to leave their homeland, right? They left their homeland as in the aftermath of tragic events. So, and now we have our parishioners who carry on traditions received from those people, like sisterhoods and so on. Like you can see in London, there is a very nice, beautiful grammata, what you would say for grammata. Very beautiful document, like, I mean, yes. decree given from Russian Synod for sisterhood of 1928. But so there is no people from that time, but there is still sisterhood. So that's basically, again, minding times. That's what I can say.
Thank you. We have an anonymous question. In the event description, you had a hot button topic of conversation. Why Rokor has a history of not paying clergy?
I don't know. Would you like to take this? I mean,
I can try, and please correct me. So, as far as I know, in the beginning, well, in Russia before the revolution, the Russian church was supported by the government. So the clergy were paid from from the tax. Can I say from taxes? Yeah. Well, basically, the government paid the clergy, and people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then when people moved, were forced to move outside of Russia, nobody really thought about how much things have changed in that sense, and for many decades after that, priests would hear when, when there's some talk about payment, they would hear, oh, the Russian Tsar is paying you, or, the Russian government is supposed to be paying you. So that went deep into the DNA. So if you can imagine, it was a really good thing at some point, and then it became kind of too much of a good thing, because on the one hand, each priest gets paid. He knows that he's a government, the government is going to take care of him. On the other hand, the people stop realizing that it's their responsibility to take care of their church, and they lay that responsibility on the government. So that's, I think, the main reason why our clergy is not being paid. And it's a very sad situation. I've worked at the Fund for Assistance for 13 years, and it's unbelievable what our clergy go through to keep serving. If you're a business owner, and if you have somebody who works like that, let's say, okay, you're going to work for me, like, let's say Father Andrei, right? Father Andrei is, and I'm the business owner, and Father Andrei loves his subject, right? It's my business, let's say, right? But at the same time, Father Andrei also works another full-time job somewhere else. What do you think I'm going to say? Oh, good job, Father Andrei. Good for you for working another full-time job. I'm going to be furious. I'm going to be furious that he's not saving giving his full energy to my business. And yeah, that's what happens. We don't realize that we allow our clergy to go and waste their strength on a business instead of working for the church. And I mean, it sounds like I'm blaming the clergy too, but I'm definitely am not. I'm not blaming anybody right now. It's just how things happened. But we don't have to keep doing the same things over and over again. That's why, the Fund for Assistance is kind of a stopgap where the Fund for Assistance can help a clergyman in trouble when they're in a really bad situation financially. But it's not a way to live. This is what does that say about our church? Does this say that, are we in good shape? I mean, the fact that we're still around, I think it really testifies to the fact that that God is at our side. But if you think about it as a business model, this is not a good business model. So I hope, Andrei, maybe you can correct me somewhere or add.
No, there is nothing to correct. I've been learning from you, Alena. I've been learning from you. It was mind-blowing. I never studied it, and I can see there is passion. Passion in your yes. response. I can see that it really sort of gets you, and it was just wow. That's all.
Thank you. We have another comment from Joseph. It has been almost a century since that was a reality. The FFA funding for everything is almost an embarrassment because basic things aren't being taken care of for clergy. I'm not entirely sure I understand. Yes, the FFA doesn't fund everything. I wish we could. That would be great. I mean, having the capability would be great. But yes, we need to do something about our clergy. And the good thing is that we don't have to invent the wheel, because other Orthodox churches know exactly how to do that. The Serbian Orthodox Church takes care of its priests. The Greek Orthodox Church takes care of its priests. It's not perfect, but they don't have to work 2 or 3 side jobs just to put bread on the table. So, maybe we should start doing something. What's the story behind the division of Rokor and the OCA? Yikes, that's a long question.
Well, actually, the story goes to what you've been describing, to the Russian Revolution, when a paycheck stopped to arrive from the imperial capital of St. Petersburg in 1917. People didn't know what to do in America because they were bankrolled by the Russian imperial government, as the church was, as you mentioned, and they started to invent something on the spot. Mm-hmm. And we are, to some extent, it's arguable what I'm saying, but I'm saying that to some extent we are living in the same period. It hasn't been completed. There were attempts like the autocephaly to the Russian North American Metropolitan District in 1970. That was granted, was one attempt. But we're still dealing with consequences of the Russian Revolution. That's kind of my take on this. Yeah.
That's a very interesting answer. There's another anonymous comment. I know of a parish that is considering moving back to Rokor after being in a schismatic group. Oh, that's wonderful news. Some members are concerned about the level of influence by not only the MP, but the Russian government. Can Father Andrei address this?
Well, I mean, it's above my pay level to address it, because then in order to address it, I would need, I don't know, almost to be like God, you know, to know everything. So it's definitely, I won't be able to be, I only able to judge what I'm familiar with, which is my actually neck of the woods, which is Jordanville. And we've been in a communion with the Russian Church since 2007. And I believe I still have fingers on my both hands to count number of bishops who visited us. It's probably was like about 5 or 6 occurrences when Moscow Patriarchate bishops served here. And I believe generally that Moscow Patriarchate really minds part of the agreement between us. They don't interfere. Everything is transparent in the sense that we're not supposed to consecrate any uncanonical bishop whose background would contradict the canonical requirements. But it's unthinkable that Rokor bishop would ever promote some person like that. So I'm not seeing any actually interference from the Russian government. I would say maybe we would benefit from more interaction with the Russian church.
I just want to add, you know, a completely non-historical and non-educated comment from myself. If you look at Orthodoxy, is it organized? Do you honestly think that we're organized enough to go to a different country and influence a small parish? I really don't think so. But again, this is just my personal opinion. We have 2 people who I think want to say something. Okay, John, I think you wanted to say something. Let me just unmute you. Are you there? John? You need to unmute yourself. Well, doesn't look like John is there. How about Manuel?
I am here. Hello.
Okay. Yes. So you're live. So what did you want to say?
I just wanted to ask Father Deacon Andrei, what are the current initiatives within the Rokor to rekindle the relationship with the OCA? You know, we see a lot of the OCA doing a lot of celebration with the Moscow Patriarchate frequently, but we don't see a lot of Rokor and OCA collaborations on, you know, many different fronts. Can you expand on that?
Right. I think I would just agree with what you said, at least unless there are other participants would enlighten us on this. But I mean, normally we have working relationship. Like actually, we have a good relationship. The former colleague is a professor at the Vladimir Seminary and participated at the conference in Belgrade. And the archivist of the CA presented there. So we kind of, when we can work together, but probably what you were saying, there is not really like initiative. There is not real sort of, how to say, we can have relationship if we want, but I mean, nothing has been scheduled basically. You're right. Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to, before we need to go, I wanted to ask Father Andrei again about our most popular topic last time, and that's why is it that the Moscow Patriarchate serves in red on Pascha and Rokor serves in white.
Right.
That is.
Right. I'm glad to say that this is not because there is white church and red church in this sense. But I mean, there is particulars, and you might know the proper English translation. I would translate it from Slavonic, Pascha Krasnaya, right? I don't know what's the standard English rendering of this, but I mean,
Pascha Pascha. I've heard Pascha of beauty and Pascha the beautiful, but
okay.
yes, it comes from the word beautiful. Red in Russian used to mean beautiful. Sorry.
Here you are. So in Great Russia, there is custom of using red vestments. And as far, I never studied, I'm not a liturgiologist, but from what I understand, in White Russia, which or Ukraine, which is very much, no, White Russia, Belarus, I'm sorry, in Ukraine, basically, and maybe Belarus also belongs there. In West Russia, maybe better to say, or West territories that became West Russia later on, there was custom to serve in white. And I actually wonder, maybe it's a Western part of the sort of Western interaction, Western cross pollination sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So that's and those territories, they had many more chances to be under non-communist governments. At various times, so many people left those territories, and they reinforced Russian Church abroad in many numbers, and that's why Ukrainian traditions like St. Job of Pachayev Monastery, of course, they're very famous. They influenced Russian Church abroad. So this is my take. It is the best I can answer this question. Not
Thank you,
liturgiologist.
Thank you. We have two more questions, and I'm afraid that we're going to have to stop after that. There's a question, what is Rokor's view now of its historical support for old calendarist groups in Greece and elsewhere?
Wow. Again, I'm not a spokesman for the Russian Church abroad. I'm glad that bishops didn't shut me down, basically, with this show, saying that who you are to speak about traditions of the Russian Church abroad and so on. So somehow they'll be very kind and generous with me, putting up with me. So I believe we in 2000, prior to 2007, there was delegation sent to meet with those synods, all Calendarist synods with whom we were in communion, informing that now we are entering in communion with the local churches, and we won't be able to maintain any Eucharistic communions. If they wanted to follow the suit and join us, they were welcome to do it, but obviously they didn't really consider this. So again, I wish that prior to reconciliation, we wouldn't have focused just on Moscow Patriarchate. How did Moscow Patriarchate evolve up to our expectations? Because it's kind of very, very Moscow-centered. But we also would have conversation going about our own how you call it, our own history, basically. And with this in mind, we might have approached this thing, this change, because you know that Metropolitan Anthony and Metropolitan Anastasi, they were not in favor of providing bishops to all calendarists. They constantly refused to consecrate hierarchy for all calendarist synod. And then there was a change of heart under Metropolitan Filaret. And we could talk about this, but since this has never been done, what can I say? You know, there is not really assessment, I mean, on official level that I'm be able to refer to say. So that's it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you for that answer. Now we have one more question, and I really like this question, actually. Silly question, I'm sure, but why do Rokor priests leave their beards long while many MP priests trim or shave their beards? That's a great question.
I'm glad I have my beard long today. It's really good question, because it's also a matter of perception. When Russian Russian imperial clergy started to arrive to America, they encountered previous generation of Russian missionary priests who were posted in America before the revolution, and they were shaved, and then they required by Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Synod, the most holy governing Synod, to look like Episcopalian clergy in America, because that was a clear cultural message. When an American person would see a clergyman with a white collar, shaved, they would identify this person as a Christian minister. When they would see, I remember, I will give you a little story. I was sitting on a train in Scotland once in my ecclesiastical garb. And there was a man sitting across of me. It was morning, and he had one beer, and he kind of relaxed, and he looked at me, and he said, "And who are you?" And I asked him, "What do you think?" And he thought for a few seconds, and he shoot back, "Rasputin."
Oh my gosh.
So that gives you an idea about all those things, because some of them would be branded by us as modernist, as lesser Orthodox things, but in fact, in America, they were part of tradition. And that's what actually history teaches us to realize, to understand it, to be more philosophical about our judgments, about our outcomes. So I think that's a good point maybe to pause this conversation until we meet again.
Yes. My husband wore, I remember one time he wore his cassock when he went to a coffee shop in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And somebody asked him, "Are you going vampire hunting?" Wow. And he was perfectly serious.
Wow.
So there you go, Rasputin. Oh, and somebody else called out Matrix, so that's interesting. Okay.
Good icebreaker for conversation to start.
Yes, definitely. But it seems to be that the older priests, I'm not sure. I noticed that in the Greek and the Serbian church, the older clergy like to wear the clergy collar,
right.
What's it called? And the younger clergy are usually, they have the longer hair and the longer beard and wear cassocks. So that's interesting. Okay, so we're out of time. And Father Mark is asking, when is part 2 of this presentation? Whenever you want it to be. So we're definitely going to be back maybe in a couple of weeks. I need to get a little bit better. I'm really struggling right now.
Please feel better, madam. Get well soon.
Спасибо. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Отец Andrei, thank you so much for being here. And if you found this interesting, please check out Father Andrei's website, rocorstudies.org, and his podcast on patreon.com, patreon.com/rocorstudies.org. So if you want to sponsor Father Andrei to produce more information like this, you know where to go, patreon.com/rocorstudies.org, or you can go to the Fund for Assistance and donate to the Fund for Assistance in support of Father Andrei. And I also dropped a link in the chat. You can also go to fundforassistance.org/donate and just, donate any sum you want for the continuation of Father Andrei's work. Is rocorstudies.org in English? Yes, it is. It's both in English and in Russian, and the whole point of having rocorstudies.org is to allow those who do not speak Russian to be able to read all these insanely important historical documents and news items in English. So please check it out. It's a very unique resource. Father Andrei has put in years of his life, and from hearing him talk today, I'm sure that you've been able to understand that this is no ordinary person, and this is not just somebody who's out there for themselves. He's doing it for our church. So please support him. Yes, last question. I was late. Can it be viewed on a download? Not on a download, but I'm going to upload it, and I'm going to send a replay link to everybody who participated today. And thank you again so much. This has been fun, and we'll see you back sometime soon.
And pray for us, most importantly. That's I think it's really have to be said here.
Yes, thank you, Father. That's very important. Thank you again very much. Bye-bye.